And now let's talk about some of the different aspects of QuickBooks that are going to come into play once we get past this point. When you've created an invoice and sent it out, you now have a receivable. Another thing I want to mention is sometimes when we create an invoice, people get paid in different ways. Let's assume for a minute that you have a walk-in customer. In other words, it's a customer that just comes into your office or storefront and says, you know what, I want to buy some purple widgets. Well, it's not necessary to create an invoice for them because they're right there. They're paying you right at that moment. So an invoice is really something you give or send out in anticipation of getting paid. But one of the things that you can do is I'm going to close this by clicking Save and Close, and I've closed the invoices. These are my estimates. I'm going to click on the bottom X. I'm going to close these. I'm going to close the checking account just to clean things up a little bit. I'm going to close my chart of accounts. I'm back to the main customer center in QuickBooks. But let's say that someone walks in the door and they want to buy some purple widgets. In this case, I'm going to go up to customers and I'm going to go down to enter sales receipts. Now, what a sales receipt is, it's like an invoice without the step of having to get the invoice out to someone and waiting for payment. It's just a receipt. So they come in, they buy the purple widgets, they give you the money, they pay you, and then you've got to record it somehow. Again, you don't want to do an invoice because once the invoice is out there, you've then got to come back in and record that you received the money. The sales receipt combines both of those. So what happens is, up here on the customer job, let's click on the drop down and let's choose the Sticks Construction Company. I'm going to hit the tab key and I'm just going to keep hitting tab until I get down to items. Now obviously if I don't want to tab, I can just click down an item. I'm going to type in purple widgets. I'm going to hit the tab key and I'm going to type in Fred came in and bought 2,000 purple widgets into store. Okay, I'm going to hit the tab key, bought 2,000 purple widgets. He paid me with a check. I could record the check if I wanted to in the memo area, but what I'm going to do here, or I'm sorry, in the check number area, I could put it in right there. But what I'm going to do at this point is just click on Save and Close. Now, before I do that, I want to show you that down on the left-hand side where it says Deposit To, because we had not previously set up a checking account, it's going to put it into the undeposited funds. So when you're dealing with undeposited funds, one of the things you can do is go in and deposit those funds on a weekly basis. So when you work with undeposited funds, you can go in maybe once a week, say Friday, and you can go in and set it up to make those deposits. So let's say now you have 10 checks sitting on your desk and you want to go deposit them. Well, if you go to banking and then make deposits, what will happen is you'll get a box pop up that will show you anything that you have not deposited. It will show you all the payments that you have recorded that are put in the undeposited funds area. Now I'm simplifying this process a little bit and it might be slightly different based on the way you've set some things up in advance. I'm going to go back to the sales receipt, and what is vital that you do is recognize that whatever you deposited into previously, that's where it's going to assume you're going to deposit it again. So we don't want to use undeposited funds. I know I'm going to go to the checking account today, I'm going to go to the bank and deposit it, so I'm going to put Tony's checking. But again, the next time we go to do any kind of sales receipt, it's going to assume that the next time we're going to put it into Tony's checking. And by doing that, when I click on Save and Close, it's going to deposit it into the checking account for $180. I'm going to close this down because I don't need this. If we go back to the checking account, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to List, Chart of Accounts. I'm going to go to Tony's checking and double click on it. Now this is a lot of work. There's the deposit from Sticks Construction. Keep in mind this is a window that I have open. It's a window for checking. Because I go into checking all the time, what I should be thinking is, hey, you know what? I want a little icon or shortcut up here. So I'm going to go up here to List, View, and I'm going to go to Add Tony's Checking to Icon Bar. Click on that. Over here it gives me a choice of different icons. Let's just grab that one, and I'm going to go OK. So now we've got Tony's Checking. So do you see a theme here? The theme is that when you want to add something to the icon bar, you can do it rather easily by creating a little shortcut up there when you have that window open. By doing that, now you don't have to go searching around these things. In fact, what's funny is when I teach this class, I really have to stop and think about how the heck do I get to certain things, because I'm so used to using the icons. I've so simplified my QuickBooks that I really have to think about where they are. It's not second nature. The other thing I really like about creating little icons up there is the fact that, let's say you have to train someone to do your job. Let's say you have to train someone to do certain things. Well, what you can do is with these icons up there, you don't have to take the time to point out different items up here and how to get to them. You can put them all up here and say, hey, that's all the things you're going to need. They're right there. You don't need anything else. Another thing I like about the icons, and I always love to tell the story of a client that I had that I went in to do some individual consulting. The person who was using QuickBooks daily on a regular basis was the office manager, and I helped her set up QuickBooks and do different things with it. I helped her create icons. But the boss, the owner of the company, who also had QuickBooks on his computer, wanted to be able to see certain reports. So she had always gone in and she said, okay, go to reports, and I'll get into this in a little bit. Go to reports, go here, go there, go here, and click on this. But it never worked for the boss because he looked at the report periodically, never consistently. So what would occur is he could never remember how to get there. She always got involved. What we did is we navigated to the report and then just simply created an icon. So for example, one of the reports you might want to see on a regular basis is the accounts receivable. So I'm going to click on Reports. I'm going to go to Customers and Receivables. I'm going to go to Account Receivable Aging Summary. Let's assume this is the one we want, and I'm going to click on that. Here is the aging summary for our accounts receivable. Again, what I can do is I can go up on my toolbar and I can add this to my icon bar. Again, it's going to prompt me for the icon I want. I'm just going to click one, and there we go. So now, if she had done this on her boss's computer, which is what we actually did, and I'm just closing some things to get them out of the way, if she clicks on AR Aging Summary, that's all she had to do for her boss. So if the reports that maybe someone else wants that you don't want to have to be involved with, go in and just simply create an icon on their toolbar. It's probably one of the easiest ways you can get in to work with that information and make it easy for them to access and get to. Now, let's say that one of the other things we want to do is we want to be able to send payments to people, or we want to be able to write checks, or we want to take money out of our checking account. Let's assume for a couple moments that you're just simply using a checkbook. Checkbook, nothing fancy. You have a checkbook. You want to write someone a check. So maybe the next check we have is check number 1000, just as an example. Well, what we can do at this point is, because we have Tony's checking account, you can physically write out a check, hand it to the person. You might even record it in the ledger that you wrote that check, but maybe you're out on the road and you're not near QuickBooks. Well, you come back to the office, and what you can do at this point is you can open up QuickBooks, you can open up your checking account, and what I'm going to do right now is QuickBooks assumes that when you open it up to do something, it assumes that the date you want to do something is today's date. So regardless of what the date is, it will automatically put it in here. Now, this class that we recorded, we actually started recording in September. We're recording the second part in October, so that might be a little confusing. If I want today's date and I'm in this area, yeah, I can click on this box and I can go to today's date, which is the 14th. I'm sorry, not the 14th of October. Today is actually October 5th. What I can do is I can go ahead a month. I can click on 5 and fill it in. But if I want to go back a couple days, maybe I wrote the check a couple days ago, again, I can click on the blue box, but on my toolbar, not my toolbar, but on my keyboard, usually on the right-hand side of the keyboard, I have a minus and a plus key. It's usually near the keypad if you're using a traditional keyboard. If I hit the minus key once, twice, three times, it just scrolls backwards through the date. If I keep holding the minus down, it will fly. Plus, it goes the other direction. If I hit T for today, it will go to today's date. If I hit M for month, it goes to month. So these are just a couple shortcuts. I'm going to hit T for today's date. I'm going to hit the tab key. I'm going to write in the check number 1000. Now, the payee, again, based on our theme of entering information into QuickBooks, if I put in Fred Jones, maybe Fred Jones is someone I bought some supplies from, I'm going to hit the tab key, and every time we put someone new in, we're going to be prompted to set it up. And there's two ways you can do it. You can do a quick add or a setup. A setup you might want to do if you always work with Fred Jones and you want to have a lot of good information in there. Typically what I'll do is I'll just do the quick add, especially when I'm training people, because I just want them to get the information in there quick. So I'm going to hit the enter key, and notice quick add has blue around it, setup does not. So when you see something that has blue around it, or it's highlighted or it stands out, what you can do is just hit enter on your keyboard. That way with QuickBooks you don't have to reach for the mouse. I'm going to hit enter, and now we have to make a decision. Who is Fred Jones? Is he a vendor? Is he a customer, employee? Because we're paying him for supplies, he's a vendor. So again, vendor is selected, so I can click on OK or just hit enter. Now we've entered Fred Jones as a vendor. Let's say we paid him $53.25. Now I'm going to hit the tab key, and when I do that, I want you to observe something. Over here, we have a balance of $15.92.77. As I hit the tab key, and again I clicked away from that for a moment, as I hit the tab key, we are going to go down to the field that says account. Up here is a list of the different fields. This top field is payee, this field is account, the third field is memo. So the account, we've got to decide, okay, what is this account? Because again, QuickBooks keeps reports based on different pieces of information, account being one of them. I'm going to click on the drop down to see what we have in here. We don't really have any good accounts in here. Let's say Fred Jones is the local gas station, and we go in and we buy gas from Fred. So I'm going to type in gas, and I'm going to hit the tab key, and again, gas is not in there. I'm going to click on setup. I could have hit OK. Gas is an expense. I'm going to click on that. That's fine. Is it a sub-account of something? Maybe, maybe not. I could type in gas for trucks or vehicles, if you have multiple vehicles. It really just depends on how you want to do this. Gas for vehicles. Any notes? Not necessarily, but I'm going to click OK. So we wrote a check for $53.25, or it could have been a debit card. It could have been either. We put it in for $53.25. When I hit the tab key again, it automatically entered that and deducted $53.25 from our checking account. So when we go in to make a payment, we just went into our checking account, wrote it out to that person, and then entered it, and it deducted, so we have a running balance of what our checking account balance would be. Now, to take this a little bit further, one of the things you can do with this is if you have a checking account or different types of accounts, many banks in this day and age, what they allow you to do is they allow you to download all of your information into QuickBooks. When you download information or you make any dramatic change of QuickBooks, what I highly recommend you do before you do that is that you back up QuickBooks before you implement that. Now, as far as the way importing things works with QuickBooks, it gets a little complicated because you've got to, in many cases, register or set up an online access or account with your bank. Then once you've done that, you can import things in a couple different ways in QuickBooks, and it can get a little bit complicated. But having said that, what I always do with people is make sure they back up QuickBooks before they make any major change. Because if you make a change and you brought it into the wrong account or in the wrong spot, it can create so much work for you, it just can be a nightmare. Backing up allows you to just restore the previous copy. I'm going to click on File, I'm going to go to Backup, and now we're prompted to back something up. What I usually recommend is when you back something up, there's a couple things you want to think about. What I typically do is I will back something up to an area on my computer. For example, let's say I created a folder on my computer, maybe on the desktop of my computer, called QuickBooks Backups. Well, when I back it up, by default it took the name of my company, the ABC Widget Company, and it put that in, and it also put in a date. Well, it didn't really put in a date because I put that in. So now if I want to type in today's date, for example, 10/5, I think today is 2007, when I create this file, that's what it's going to be called. Now, I don't necessarily have to put in today's date, but if my previous copy of QuickBooks was, for example, just simply called the ABC Widget Company, if that's all I left it as the name, when I go to back it up, it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, you've got another copy of ABC Widget Company in here. What do you want to do? Do you want to overwrite it? And if you say yes, well, it overwrites the previous version. So you're always deleting the previous one. But by changing the name slightly, just by simply putting in the date, it's a unique file. So what's going to occur is you're going to have many files in there for each time you back it up. The reason I prefer that strategy is, let's say that you have to restore one of the backups and you realize that that backup was corrupt or something went wrong. Well, if you had deleted all the previous ones, you could be in trouble. If you had all of them in there, well, the worst case scenario is you might have created a backup maybe 2 weeks ago. So if you have to restore it because you goofed or you did something wrong or something happened, well, then you can restore it from 2 weeks ago. Yes, you might have 2 weeks of work to do to catch up. Again, a lot of that can be done from your bank statement, but it's better than losing everything. So I always recommend, whatever you call the file, throw a date or a number, just something to make it a little bit different. So now when I click OK, it's going to actually back this up, and it's going to verify the data integrity, and it's going to back it up in that folder. I'm going to click on no, because what this is telling me, it's also that it's on my hard drive, and if my hard drive fails, then we could have a problem. So the next dilemma is, once you back up your data, you want to get it off the premises, meaning you want to get it off your computer. There is a service that I'm a huge fan of because it makes things dummy proof, and also it takes the human equation out of it. There is an online backup service called Carbonite, and Carbonite, what it does is Carbonite will back up your computer to a remote spot for only $50 a year, and it does it automatically. All you have to do is install the software, and for $50 a year, it's unlimited backup. You don't have to do anything else. So if my computer failed today, I know that I have a backup someplace else. And it's really easy to use, it's cheap, and it's a phenomenal tool. Again, it's called Carbonite, C-A-R-B-O-N-I-T-E. They're actually a Boston-based company. I've talked to the folks over there. They're quite nice, and I highly recommend it. If you don't want to go that route, make sure you take those files out of your office, put them on some kind of backup device, but get them out of your office. And as a general rule of thumb, I always tell people, when you do backups, yeah, it's okay to have some of the information on your computer, but make sure you have a copy of any of that backup information that's on your computer on a disk or something, tape drive, some kind of media, and get it out of your office. And the reason for that, if you ever have a fire, well, you could be in a lot of trouble. If you ever had that information destroyed and that's the only spot you had it, well, you're in trouble. All of that requires human interaction. It requires your time and energy. Carbonite does not. That's why I like it so much. So right now we've gone in, we've written just a simple check. You can also pay people in a little bit different way. In the next class, the next portion of this class, what we will focus on is showing you how you can make different types of payments, how you can pay your vendors, how you can enter your vendors. I have some different opinions on that, and it really comes down to your approach and the way you want to work with it. So I want to thank you for being here for part 2 of our QuickBooks training. We'll do part 3 next, and I'll try to answer questions during that time if people have questions. Thank you very much for being here. and I look forward to having you sit in on part 3. Have a great day.